Hello students, welcome to JCE Connect. Myself Professor Niranjan Muchandi, Department of Electronics and Communication, Jain College of Engineering. So we'll start with the topics we have left from. So today's topics are instruction and instruction sequencing, assembly language notations, CPU organization, instruction formats, instruction execution and state line sequencing, and last is branching. So we'll see instruction and instruction sequencing. So we know a computer performs a task according to the program stored in the memory. A program is a collection of instructions, and instructions informs the processor to perform a basic operation like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, logical operations like AND, OR, and other operations like reading the key from the keyboard, giving the print command to the printer, etc. A computer should have instructions to perform at least 4 types of operations, such as data transfer between the memory and the processor register, where the data is transferred between the memory, which is external to the processor, and the processor registers. So processor will have some registers which can store the data for immediate operation like addition, subtraction, and other logical operations. Second is arithmetic and logical operations on data. So the processor will perform arithmetic and logical operations on the data, and the result needs to be stored back in the memory. Program sequencing and control. So this usually deals with when you have a loop when just to give an example of loop is you have written functions in C programming. So in assembly level language, that functions are called as loops, which are written separately to perform a specific task. So the program sequencing will change. It will go to that loop, execute that, and come back to the main program. And the last is IO transfer. In IO transfer, it is nothing but the data transfer between input-output devices, such as, for example, if you're connecting a pen drive, the data, you can copy it from the pen drive, or you can paste it in the pen drive. A complete instruction set is referred as instruction set architecture. So every processor will have a set of instructions, which is referred as instruction set architecture. In addition to the specific instructions, an instruction set architecture also specifies the addressing methods used to access the data, operands, and processor register. So there are different addressing methods. So this will be covered in the second module. What are the different addressing modes? So we'll look to that topic in the second module. The instruction set architecture includes all the details the programmer needs to know and to make machine language program correctly, including instructions, registers, IO devices, and so on. The instruction set register is an abstract interface between the hardware and the lowest level software that combines all the information necessary to write a machine language program that correctly runs on the system. An implementation is a hardware that obeys the architecture abstract. So we'll see the next topic, that is register transfer notation. This is also referred as register transfer language, sometimes also called as RTL and RTN, register transfer language. We identify a memory location by a symbolic name in uppercase alphabets. The name indicates its address. For example, LOC, LOCN, R0, sometimes we write NUM, table, 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 and etc. We'll have some specific names for each location. Indicates the memory location instead of the actual address like 1000, 2000, 3000, 1004. So it is very difficult to remember the memory location by its actual number. So we'll have a specific name to it. So for example, there are so many students in the Department of Electronics and Communication. So it is difficult to address. So when we say it is 5th semester A division, 5th semester B division, so we are confined to that. So each students from that division are given a specific roll number. So it is very easy to identify. So each memory address is given a specific name which will be easy to address for the programmer. Similarly, the processor registers are indicated by an uppercase alphabet followed by a number such that R0, R1, R2, R3, so on. These are the registers which will be a part of processor, which will help the processor to execute arithmetic and logical instructions. The contents of this location is denoted by placing a square bracket. So here we see a content of the location denoted by placing a square bracket around the name location. So here we see R1, there is arrow mark, and square bracket location. So the square bracket around the name suggests that it is a memory location. So what it does, the right hand side of an expression always denotes the value, and the left hand side of the symbolic name where the value is to be stored. So the arrow shows where the value has to be stored, and the right hand side is the value need to be stored. Okay, and it is denoted by arrow symbol. Okay, so source contents are not modified. The destination contents are changed after the operation. For example, the destination R1 arrow comma location in the bracket. Here the destination is R1, source is location where it is given in the square bracket. That means if it is given in a square bracket, it specifies that it is a memory location. So the processor will go to the specific memory location and copy the data from it and store it in R1. Now one more example is R3 arrow and square bracket R1 plus square bracket R2. So what this instruction will do, looking at the instruction, we can say the destination is R3 and the source are R1 with the square bracket and R2 with the square bracket. The addition of both, the result will be stored in the R3. So for example, the contents of R1 are 04 and contents of R2 are 03. The addition of both is 07. That result is stored in the register R3. You need to remember that the contents of the destination will be changed after the execution of this instruction. The contents of R1 and R2 will remain as it is. So I said R1 is 04, R2 is 03. After the execution of the instruction, it will hold the same data. Only the data in over R3 will be overwritten. Okay. So next is assembly language notations. So it is also called as RTN notation, easy to understand. So since the processor understands only the binary format, we need to use notations which could be converted into machine language format effectively. For this, a new format called as assembly language is used. Here we use English-like words called mnemonics to represent an operation uniquely. For example, the statement given here, move LOC, R1. Here the contents of R1 are moved into the location, destination is here R1. So here we can see we are moving the contents. So we are writing in assembly level language. So these are called mnemonics, the instructions. So here the mnemonics part is MOVE, which will tell the processor what operation needs to be performed. So it tells MOVE, it will move the contents of LOC location into R1. So it will move the contents of LOC into R1. So for example, the location contains LOC contains 25. After the execution of this instruction, the 25 data will be moved into R1. So these are mnemonics are called as MOV. We are using English like words called as mnemonics. There is one more example similar to it. We write addition as ADD. So it specifies this instruction is doing addition. ADD is called as mnemonics. R1, R2, R3 are called as registers. So what will happen after this instruction? The addition of R1 plus R2 and the result will be stored in R3. So here the mnemonics is ADD, the destination is R3, and the source registers are R1 and R2. So with respect to these two instructions given here, where move and add are called as mnemonics. It is MNEMONICS, mnemonics. So assembly language is a symbolic language using mnemonics to represent machine instruction. This is better than the binary language. So since the user cannot write a program in terms of zeros and ones, okay, so when this add R1, R2, R3 comes to the processor, it will be converted into appropriate machine language in terms of zeros and ones. Then the processor will understand what operation needs to be done. But for the user or a programmer, it is difficult to write the program in terms of zeros and ones. So we write in the language, basically English language, some words using called as mnemonics. Okay, these instruction sets are specified by the processor what you're using. I cannot write, some processors use move as MOV, some processors use move instruction as MOVE. Okay, so it depends on processor to processor. That is the instruction written in from one processor. For example, Intel 8086 cannot be used with another processor like Motorola, ARM processors. So each processor will have a specific instruction set. You have to use that instructions and write the code. Okay, so that is about the assembly language program. So they are machine dependent. Which machine you are writing the code, you should know the instruction sets of that particular machine. But to provide a better and more flexible programming environment, high level languages were introduced like C, C++, Java, which are not machine dependent, they are independent. So no matter you are writing the C program at college or at home, you did not have to worry which processor you are working on or which operating system you have. Okay, so the instruction set will not change in C, C++, Java. But when you are writing in assembly level language, they are processor dependent. Okay, you should know what instruction sets are being used. So next is CPU organization. Okay, in CPU, that is a processor, we have a special register known as accumulator, okay, which holds the data after arithmetic and logical instructions. It is also part of that instruction. Results are usually stored, goes to the accumulator. Accumulator has to save to memory quite often. For example, when you are adding two or three numbers, the result can be stored in accumulator. From this accumulator, the result can be stored in the memory location. It is a similar register like R0, R1, R2, but a special register just because it holds one of the data during the arithmetic and logical operations in some specific processors. General registers holds the operand, thus reduces the memory traffic and register bookkeeping. For example, general registers, we will have R0, R1, R2, maybe up to R7. These registers are used to hold the data, so it will become easy whenever you want some data for some arithmetic and logical operations. The data is readily available in the processor. You did not have to go to the memory, fetch it and get it back to the register and then do the operation. So it will help, and it will help to keep a sequence or a series of numbers, okay, for arithmetic and logical operations. And one more is the stack. Stack is a separate memory kept aside where the operands and results are always in, which are always stored there. I gave an example in the previous lectures that stack is a memory, like I am executing a normal program. Suddenly one more program needs the access of the buses. So I'll I'll interrupt this program. I'll keep the return address of this main program in the stack and go and help the other program to execute. I gave an example that when you are reading a book and suddenly your friend calls you. So what you do, you place a marker in the book and you go meet him. Once you come back, you'll open the same page where the marker is pointing. So this will help you to start from where you have stopped before meeting the friend. Same way, when the processor is executing the main program, if some other program require its service, it will go and help the other program. But before going, it will store its return address in the stack. So when it gives the service to the other programs, once it is returning, it will refer the stack, take the return address and go back to the program from where it has left and start executing it. Next topic is instruction formats. Okay, so here we will discuss 4 types of instruction formats. The first one is 3 address instructions. The instruction format for the 3 address is, first is operation source 1, source 2, destination. I'll just repeat, the instruction format for this 3 address instruction is operation source 1, source 2, destination. With respect to this example, the operation is addition. Source 1 is R1, source 2 is R2 and destination is R3. So it will add the contents of R1 plus R2 plus R3, R1 plus R2 and stores the result in R3. So here R1 and R2 are called as source operands, R3 is called as destination operand, and add is so we'll see now 2 address instructions. The general format for 2 address instructions are operation source, destination. Here operation is nothing but it may be addition, subtraction, move. So it will specify what operation will be carried out. In this example, we have add R1, R2. The operation is addition, source is R1 and destination is R2. It will add the contents of R1 and R2 and the result is stored in R1. Next we'll see 1 address instruction. The general format for 1 address instruction is operation source, source or destination. This instruction specifies only memory operation, which may be source or destination. The other operand is implied to the processor register called accumulator. All the operations are to be performed on the contents of the accumulator. For example, add M. It will add the contents of the accumulator with the memory and stores the result back in the accumulator. Here M in the instruction specifies a memory address. So this contents of the memory address will be added with the accumulator. That is why it is specified AC. So in 1 address instruction, it is implied that the instruction is accumulator is a part of the instruction. So it will add the contents of the memory with the accumulator and the result is stored back in the accumulator. Another example of this are load X, load Y, store X, store Y. Load X will copy the contents of the memory location X into the accumulator. Store B will transfer the contents of the accumulator into the memory location B, and so on. The next is zero address instruction. In this case, the location of all the operands are defined implicitly. The operands are stored in a structure called as push down stack. Note that we observe the source operands are specified first, followed by the destination operand. This is the format used in the Motorola 68000 processor. In Intel processors, the destination operand is specified first, followed by the source operand. So I told you, in assembly level language we are machine dependent. So now whatever example we have used are based on the format used by the Motorola 68000 processor. So we see one more example is add. Here it will add the contents of accumulator with specified register and stores the result back in the accumulator. So instruction format examples. Just evaluate the example A plus B into C plus D. So here addition, first example, add R1 comma A comma B. So it will add the contents of the accumulator A with the register B and the result is stored back in the R1. Okay, so I have given example. I have to add A plus B, then I have to add C plus D. So what I'll do, I'll take one more register as a destination, add R2 comma C comma D. So it will add the contents of C and D and the result is stored in R2. So we have done A plus B, we have done C plus D. So now what is left is multiplication of both the additions. So multiply x comma R1 comma R2. It will multiply the contents of R1, which is nothing but the sum of A plus B, and it will multiply with R2, which is addition of C plus D, and the result of the multiplication is stored in memory location X. So this is how the task is done in the assembly language processor. Now we'll evaluate using two address instructions, A plus B into C plus D. Here move R1 comma A, it will move the contents of accumulator into R1. Now we have to use only two address instructions. So next will be moving the contents of B into some register. Okay, so we have taken move R1 comma A. Now A contents are in R1. Now adding this contents of R1 with B. Okay, so result is stored back in R1 again. Then move R2 comma C, we are taking C contents into R2, add R2 comma D, it will add the contents of C and D, and then we can use multiplication of R1 comma R2. So this is two address instruction to evaluate this example. The result of this multiplication will be stored back in R1 after the multiplication operation. So here again the result can be moved into the memory location move x comma R1, where the result of the multiplication will be moved into the memory location, because R1 is a general purpose register. If you want to store it in the memory, you have to move the data from move x comma R1. We can see here the move, here we are adding MOV. Okay, this is the mnemonics used for moving the data. For multiplication we will use MUL. For addition we use ADD. For subtraction we use SUB. Okay. So what is the advantage of using the registers? Registers are very close to the processor, so it makes the execution very faster. Shorter instructions, the number of registers is smaller. Example 32 registers need 5 bits. Potential speed up, minimize the frequency with which the data is moved back and forth between the memory processor and the register. If both the operands, when I say operand, it means data. For example, A plus B I want to add and store it in R1. If A data is available in accumulator and B data is available in the register and store it in R1, for this operation I did not have to fetch to the memory because all the data is available vicinity of the processor. It doesn't have to go to fetch memory. This obviously will speed up the processing speed. So next is instruction execution and state line sequencing. So here we'll see, here they have given an example. A figure shows a memory map. Here we are performing addition operation. A small program is written where we move the contents of R0 into A. Then we add the contents, we'll move the contents of A into R0. Then we'll add the contents of B with R0 and move that contents of R0 into C. Okay, so this is the program we are writing into the memory location. As we have seen in the figure, the address is specified as I. So we are assuming that each memory location will hold 32-bit data. So after first memory location, the next will be starting I plus 4 because I is 32-bit. That means it will require 4 bytes. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So next will start at I plus 4. That will also require 4 bytes. So next will start at I plus 8. This is how the instructions are placed in the memory with the address. So the program execution begins from the memory location I. It is a 3 instruction program segment. So full memory address can be directly specified in a single word instruction. The memory is byte addressable. Word length is 32-bit and the processor has number of registers. We use 2 address instructions format and the instructions are stored in successive memory locations starting in the location I. Since each instruction is 4 byte long, the successive instruction starts at I plus 4, I plus 8 and so on. So we know the processor has a register called as program counter. If you remember the block diagram, we have instruction decoder and we have program counter. The program counter holds the address of the next instruction to be executed. So initially, when the address of the first instruction I is loaded into the program counter, now this control circuit will start fetching the instruction one after the other from the successive address in the memory and executes them. This is called as state line sequencing. During the execution of each instruction, the program counter is incremented by 4 to point to the next instruction. So when the program counter, when the processor is executing the first instruction move A, R0, the program counter will be automatically pointing I plus 4, that is the next instruction to be executed. When the processor is executing add B, R0, the processor will be pointing the program counter will be pointing I plus 8, that is move R0, C, that is the next instruction to be executed. The complete operation is performed in 2 phases. The first phase is called as instruction fetching. The instruction is fetched from the memory location and placed in the instruction register of the processor. At the end of the fetching phase, the program counter is incremented by 4. At the start of the next phase, called as instruction execute, the contents of the instruction register is decoded to determine which operation to be performed. The operation may involve another memory access to fetch operands or may be accessing processor registers, performing arithmetic and logical operations, and storing the results in the processor register or in a memory location when the execute phase of the instruction is completed. The program counter contains the address of the next instruction so that new fetching cycle can begin. We'll see here the concept of branching. We'll see the concept of branching in the next class. Thank you.